to recognize students that show outstanding leadership and dedication to FIRST. And they're going to be some of our most outstanding students within our program. Students that are in the 10th or 11th grade are eligible to be nominated. They are nominated by their coach or mentor from their team. And so each team is allowed to nominate up to 2 students. So each team will submit those 2 nominations, and those are done through your dashboard. And you want to share, each coach would nominate a student by submitting an essay on that student. And it's really important to share some key examples of that student and not do a simple form letter. You want to make sure you recognize that individual and what their expertise and what they're passionate about, what their entrepreneurship and their creativity, and how they are able to motivate and lead others, and then how they effectively increase the awareness of FIRST through their school and their community. So one thing that I did when I was a coach, when we were nominating our students, is we had a questionnaire that we gave to our students, and we asked them to complete that for the students that were being nominated. And we were able to really pull some really good examples and some feedback from the team to help us write that essay, because you really want this essay to represent the student and how they contribute to the team. And you want it to be a reflection on how the team feels about that student. One important thing is the person that nominating the student cannot be related to the student. So if the coach has a child on the team, the other mentor would need to submit the nomination. If you have both parents as the mentors on the team, you can reach out to another mentor and make sure they're signed up in the dashboard as a team mentor, and they'll be able to submit that essay on for that student. So things to include in the essay: how's the student a leader? How's the student helped increase the awareness of FIRST? And you want to describe their interest and passion and their long-term commitment to FIRST, and describe their technical expertise, and how they use that, and how they're creative, and how they share that within their team, their school, and their community. It's not necessarily necessary to include activities outside of FIRST, but if you can find how they can relate to FIRST or the FIRST initiatives within the STEM background, then you could include some of those activities. You want to include things like how their individual contributions to the team. Were they a builder, a program, a team captain? How do they contribute? And the essay is a very key tool because this is what the interviewers will use before. They'll read the essay before they do an interview with the students, and then the interviewer will write up their feedback that they received from their interview. And then the reviewers for the state, all they have to go on is the initial essay that was submitted, and then the interviewer's feedback. So they don't interview the students again. So it's really important to have a really good essay, and then the student should, I would recommend the students read over their essays before they go to their interview, so they know what's in their interview, in their essay, and then they will be able to elaborate more or even share some new information so that the interviewer can include additional information about that student. So things that you'll need to include when you're going to nominate your student. You need to include their name, address, the year that they're graduating from high school, and their GPA. Now, this is not a strictly academic award, so it's not necessarily has to be the top GPA, but they are asking for that information. They'll also ask what GPA scale you'll be using for that GPA. And then what event that student will be interviewed, like for the FTC, what league tournament would they be participating in? And then for FRC, what district event they'll be attending. So like I mentioned, you will use your dashboard to submit the essay. You'll go into your dashboard and then you'll click under certificates and awards. And that's where you'll find the portal to submit your essay. I would recommend starting your essay on either Word or Google Doc, whatever format works best for you. And then copy and pasting it into your dashboard. Just bear with me, I'm just kind of reading over some information that I have just from my own experience. But like I said, I didn't have a formal presentation. I don't know what happened to Kyle and where he's at. So each team can nominate 2 students, and then from there they'll be interviewed at their event, and then the state will recognize. Last year for First Tech Challenge, we recognized 3 students, and I believe for First Robotics Competition it was 2 students. And those students would then go on to recognize the state, represent the state on at the World Championship in Houston. So when a team is nominating a student, they're considered a semifinalist. And then those that are the state winners, those are called finalists. And then those that win at the World Championship are called Dean's List winners. And so when a student gets to go to the World Championship, they are invited to some special luncheons with Dean Kamen. And it's a really neat opportunity to be present with other Dean's List finalists and learn what other students are doing across the country. Dean's List students are also eligible for many scholarship opportunities. We have many colleges that are partnered with FIRST that are looking for students. They recognize their leadership skills and are able to go on to some really special opportunities. I really wish Kyle was here so he could share some of that information with you guys. Anyway, I will open it up to see if y'all have any questions, and then I can kind of answer some of your questions that you may have. So one question I have was, is this meeting for coaches? This meeting, it could be actually for anyone, coaches or even students, if they wanted to learn more about the Dean's List process. What I've covered so far is kind of the process of nominating a student and what goes into the selecting your Dean's List students. And then another question is, will this be available on the website or else afterwards? Yes, all the presentations are going to be recorded and will be available. Looks like Kyle, are you?
I am.
Good. I'm going to let you take over.
Yes, please. I apologize, everyone. I was able to get through literally all of this morning session and then fun times afterwards. So thank you guys for your patience. And I'm gonna keep it very simple, very, very simple today. So let me go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint presentation. Perry, I'm actually just gonna use the one that you made before because it actually kind of explains it perfectly, and then you can just kind of explain it from there.
Yeah, I kind of went through it kind of quickly and touched on some key things, thinking you were going to show up any minute.
Yeah. All right, so let me go ahead and get it started on my computer, and then let me make sure that I can go ahead and share my content. Here, let's start from the beginning. There we go. Awesome. Let's see. All right. There we go. I think we got it. All right. Welcome, guys. Let me make sure. I guess if we've already explained it a little bit, we can kind of fast forward a little bit. So, this is just talking about understanding the Dean's List Award process. The Dean's List Award exists between not just FRC, but FTC as well. And so there are a lot of things that are similar in terms of the nomination process, in terms of what you're looking for in terms of the candidate, but there are different steps because we're dealing with FTC, which has leagues and the state championship and everything else in between. And then you have on the FRC side, you have your district events, but those are going to be the judging is going to be more virtual for those, and then finally your state championship, and then obviously worlds for both. So let's go ahead and kind of move forward with this. And so very quickly, Dean's List is basically to recognize, leadership and dedication of first most outstanding students. So the Kamen family, specifically, we came in and created this award that focuses on recognizing 10th or 11th graders that basically exemplify the ideals of first. And so a big part of this, especially with the Dean's List, is not just the fact of recognizing these students, but also giving them an opportunity to be able to use their talents, to be able to use their influence in other places in the first community, as well as, it's a great marketing tool, honestly, for colleges and universities for first robotics, because we have a lot of our students that come from the Dean's List. These guys are top notch. So, the Dean's List is just a way for us to be able to recognize different students. So, going from there, for our past Georgia Dean's List winners, we actually have 5 Dean's List winners. From 2018, we have 3. Obviously, Ariana Garber, Marcus Morris, and Natalie Long. And then from 2014, we have Alex Kump. And then from 2010, we have me. So from Georgia, we have 5 winners that have gone through. So to be able to get inside the winner's circle, it's an awesome feeling, awesome experience. And, we hope if for the mentors that are on this call that you guys will be able to nominate a student, or not even hope. We know that you guys are going to be nominating students that exemplify these ideals, and we're hoping to see them in the winner's circle for the 2020-2021 season. So, talking eligibility, any team that's in North America, including Canada and Mexico, can apply. 10th and 11th graders are the focus of this award. A big part about this, which is a great point that was mentioned here, is that if you have student members that are part of your team but are mentors, they're not part of the student roster, they're not eligible for the award. And then finally, international teams aren't eligible for the award. So going from here, we'll go forward and talk about the criteria. So when we talk criteria, this is what we look for in terms of our candidates. So to give a little bit of background, so I work as one of the main reviewers on the FTC side, and as well as with Miss Terry. Miss Terry has basically helped us with the Dean's List effort on the FTC side for a good amount of time. But I also know from experience about what the FRC process looks like. And so for both of them, they all fall into this criteria. So the criteria is demonstrated leadership and commitment to the ideals of FIRST, interest in a passion for a long-term commitment to FIRST and its ideals, overall in individual contribution to their team, technical expertise and passion, entrepreneurship and creativity, the ability to be able to motivate and lead their team, and to be able to effectively increase awareness of FIRST in the school and community. You know, we look through this not just in the essays that are written, but also in the, not just by the essays. Well, we do look at it by essays. It's also in the interview and everything else. We want someone that exemplifies the well-roundedness that we want to exemplify in FIRST, right? So that's what we're looking for a lot of times as we go throughout this process, which is why it's so hard, because FIRST does such a great job at building these students in these ways. So from there, how to determine nominees. Every team has their individual method, but Ms. Terry, since you've been with Duck Ties and Zip Tapes, how is it that they basically handled that process of selecting people?
Sure. So we, a lot of times it comes down to which students are eligible between the 10th and 11th graders. And then we look at those students and we look to see which ones really stand out. If we have more than two, then we kind of, the two coaches have sat down and determined which ones we should nominate. And then sometimes we do get the students involved in that process, and we ask, take a vote. And so that we are, you know, because the whole entire team should be nominating the students. It shouldn't just be from the coaches.
Definitely agree. Now, from there, you know, when it comes to the actual nomination through the FIRST Inspires portal, the team mentor, and this is a very key point, who is not in relation to the nominees, will submit the essay, but the team may assist in the creation of the essay information. Now, I'm gonna give you a scenario that actually happened. I believe it was last year. I believe it was last year or the year before, where we had a candidate that had their essay submitted, and the reality of that essay is that someone else wrote the essay that was not in relation, but the mentor in that case was a parent. And for some reason, with what happened with the FIRST system, we had a mix-up where literally the mom of the student was shown on our display to basically have nominated a student, which meant we would have had to disqualify that student from the actual nomination process. So we're going to show it a little bit later on, but make sure you pay attention to your process on how you submit, because you don't want to have to deal with any snafus in terms of having to disqualify someone because of those types of items.
Right, and we actually had, for Duck Ties and Zip Tape, we did have coaches that were parents of students that were nominated. So what we did was I would be the one that would actually submit it for the student that was the other coach's child. So we just need to make sure that whoever is submitting the nomination needs to be not related to that student.
Yes.
And if both parents are coaches, then you can enlist another mentor to be added into your dashboard.
Yes. All right. So let's talk about what an essay should include. All right. So one big thing, I love college admissions essays, not because I get to see such eloquent essays and everything else. They're hilarious to me because a lot of times, it gets into it balances between like, oh, this is a great, this is legitimate stuff they did, and then sometimes it's fluff, right? And as someone that has had to review essays, I don't want fluff. I want a big part for me is I want people, when they read that essay, I want them to have a clear vision of who that person is and how, one, first has affected them, but two, how have they made their influence on first. So a couple things to keep in mind, right, is how is the student a leader, how have they helped increase the awareness of first, describe the student's interest and passion that demonstrates your long-term commitment to first, talk about their technical expertise, but then on the other side, talk about their entrepreneurship and creativity. And a big part about that is, when I've talked to judges at from worlds that look at these thesis essays and everything else, right? The big thing that they want to understand is the story of this student. And a lot of times what happens within an essay is either on one extreme you have really sparse essays. Like I know nothing really about this student other than literally like they told me like the bare minimum. They told me the GPA. They told me literally how they're lead of this team and they work with this and they work with this, and it's very bare bones. But a lot of times these judges are not just looking for what these students have done, they want the story of what these students have done, right? And so a big part in writing an essay is not just about making a laundry list of what a student has done, but it's explaining in the best detail that you can the true impact that that student had on people. I love that Miss Terry is here because a lot of times when I would go through and read Duck Ties and Zip Tape's essays throughout the years for thesis candidates, like they did a really great job at explaining that not just what a student has done, but it's also the temperament of the student, the heart of the student. Because at the end of the day, there's a true change from the inside out that happens with these students whenever we've done our job with first. And so we want to understand that as reviewers, as interviewers. And so, those are the types of essays that I want. I don't want fluff pieces where it's just like, I could literally just see the same thing like on, what is it called? Like a bio. It's like line item, line item, line item, line item, line item. I want to understand the narrative of what the student means to the first community from their impact to it and their impact that they have received. And even what they're doing to push outside the first community to make the circle of the first community larger.
And I will say that we got a lot of that information from our students. We like I said earlier, we did like some questions that we asked each of our students to answer on behalf of the nominating student. And we were able to really get some of that story behind some of the examples that we were able to include in our essays.
Definitely. And, I think it's really key. Like when, Ms. Terry, you've done a lot more of the interviewing than I have.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really take a look at the essays before you go into the interview to kind of get the best idea? And does that kind of help to kind of point you on how you're going to conduct the interview?
Yeah, I definitely read the interviews. The essays before the interview. and it does help me kind of start with the interview process. But also what's really key is I think it's really important for the students to have read the essay so they know what's in the essay, because I can't remember the time that we get to interview them, but it's not very long. It's like maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and it goes by really, really fast. And so it's really good if they know what's in the interview and they can elaborate more or tell us something that's not in the not on the essay, so that we can include even more information about that student, so that when it gets to the reviewers, they have more information to go on.
I would with that note, specifically because I've had instances, and I've seen instances where, you know, it's an awesome thing when a student gets nominated. They're so excited. It's like, yeah, like I got nominated. That's awesome. You guys, it's a surprise. It's so great. And then they're, you know, depending on who's writing the essay, you know, you're looking, it's like, wait, what did you write on this essay? I did what? No, I never did that. Wait, what? And then, you know, these students are like bamboozled when they go to the interview. It's just like, oh no. So make sure, one, to show your students the essay before they do their interview, but two, be honest and truthful about the essays. Because the fun part about, you know, both FTC and FRC is, even though, you know, we have a bunch of these different teams, our community has the great benefit of being close knit, which also means you have the slight disadvantage of, if you're trying to pull something, we know when we can smell something rotten. So make sure that you're telling the truth in essays. It's very important to me, especially like we've seen some stuff in I've seen some stuff in essays. So I'm just like, oh, I know this event and I know this person. That never happened. And then I'm like, disqualified. Like that's something I hate doing. But, you know, I want to make sure that the people that we send forward to the World Championship are truly deserving of the honor of being a finalist. And every student has the right to be nominated, everything else. But I wanna make sure that we highlight the right people. So make sure to be honest. All right, let's keep going here. You know, as we said, students' individual contributions to outreach and fundraising efforts, individual contributions to the team, and, you know, in this one it says it's not necessary to include the students' activities outside of FIRST. You know, we want you to focus on FIRST related activities, but I think it's also really important, you know, for these essays, if they're doing something, you know, like Eagle Scouts, or is it Eagle Scouts? Is Eagle Scouts the highest level? Or Eagle Scout is the highest level, right? I'm pretty sure. So I've had people that talk about Eagle Scouts and about their Eagle Scout project and about how they took what they learned in FIRST and they were able to apply it with their Eagle Scout items. You know, we want to see how the FIRST world integrates into our outside world. So if it relates to that, I'm perfectly fine. But if you're telling me that they're a first chair in band, like, awesome, I love band, but also in the context of this, I don't care. Like, I'm very honest. Like, if I see that, I'm like, oh, cool, that's like 10 words out of the total word count that they just, like, took away. So make sure that you're very focused in how the essay is written. A big part, it's a 4,000 character limit. I don't think they're going to be expanding it this year, so make sure that you watch it. Very, very, very clear with that.
And another thing you need to make sure when you're writing your essay, since there is a character limit, you can use abbreviation like FTC and FRC, but you also want to make sure that when you are using some acronyms, that the interviewer and the reviewers will know what those mean. FTC and FRC will definitely know, but you know, if you have something that's associated with just your team or your school, we may not know what those mean. So you may need to spell those out.
Definitely. All right. So going from there, there's specific details that we want to kind of focus on, right? So in your nomination, you want to make sure to have the name, address, the year that they graduate, because remember again, they had to be 10th or 11th grade to be nominated. From there, GPA was introduced in the last couple of years. It's not an academic award, but this gives us an idea of the excellence that the student portrayed, right? When it comes on scales, 3.0 and 4.0. If you have a weighted GPA, you may have to note that. So if it's like a 4.2 on 4.0 scale, or if it's percentage, 94% out of 100. And then you have 200 characters to describe the academic excellence. Now, also a big part about that is, what I will say to you is this: just because a student has a low GPA or a lower GPA, I would press on you to still nominate the student, because the reality is what I've also seen with not just in the dean's list items, but just in regular life, is that it's not the person that has the highest GPA that has the highest amount of impact. It's the person that has learned from their mistakes to get to somewhere is also making an impact sometimes. I've met students that, started off a little rough in their freshman year, and then from there they grew and they learned to get to where they are in their junior year. And so if there's a student that you see that great candidate, but they may have like that lower GPA, like just nominate them. I'd encourage you to nominate them, because they may have a slightly lower GPA, but they may have an incredible story, and we want to be able to recognize that. Ms. Terry, what would you say in terms of when it comes to the GPA item?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think in that, especially when they give us this little section that you can describe, you can kind of elaborate more on their academic excellence. So you can, if they did, like you said, start off a little rough and have learned some great experiences and are working hard, pulling their GPA up, you can describe that, and that's a lot. That's important.
Thank you. Now, from there, the final two things are very important. So obviously, you need to tell us technically what event they're going to be interviewed at. Although in this case, what we're going to be dealing with FTC and FRC is more going to really be like it may be the event that the interview is associated with, but it's going to be virtual interview. Okay, so make sure that you're watching updates from First Inspires and from Georgia First, specifically on how we're going to conduct those interviews specifically. And then finally, obviously, we need that essay. The essay is important for us so we can know what we're supposed to be looking at with this student. So from there, let's talk about how to submit. So the Dean's List Award can be submitted by Lead Mentor 1, Lead Mentor 2's Lead Mentor 1 or Lead Mentor 2's dashboard, or another mentor that's invited to be a Dean's List Award submitter, right? And also, as we said, submitter cannot be related to the nominee, and they have to have YPP on file, all right? So a big part of this is you're going to log into your dashboard, go to firstinspires.org. There's a part on the page when you go down and you're looking at your team specifically, and you can actually press on the certificates and awards drop-down menu, and you would select specifically the FRC Dean's List Award submission. And then finally, you're going to enter in the nominee's information, what we talked about in the previous slide, and then you would save changes from that point. So just showing very quickly, if you needed to go ahead on the other side, if you're not lead mentor 1 or lead mentor 2, and you had to invite a Dean's List Award submitter, you would go through in this drop down, select Dean's List Award submitter, select your full name, put the full name of the person and their email address, and then send the invitation. There we go. Primary contact, invite contact, Dean's List Award submitter. There you go. And then the mentor would accept their Dean's List submitter invite from their own dashboard, and then follow the instruction. This is just from First IT. Basically, if you use IE, please don't use IE anymore. Don't use it. Use Microsoft Edge. Use any of the other browsers that are available on the World Wide Web. But yeah, Internet Explorer, that's just a side note. But yeah, Internet Explorer Safari may cause you error messages. But First IT will always recommend using Chrome or Firefox. And then when you're using mobile devices and tablets, you may not be able to click the certain buttons or save information correctly. So I would definitely suggest doing it from a desktop or laptop in this case. And when you're doing it multiple tabs or windows, you may have some user timeout errors, redirect errors, or just bumping you out. So from there, once you've submitted the essay, right, we're talking interviews. Now, like Ms. Terry said before, your interviews are basically going to last from 5 to 10 minutes, maybe realistically 5 to 7. In COVID time, maybe a little bit longer, but, be ready for 5 to 10 minutes, right? And so they're going to either be interviewed at an event, just go ahead and just ignore that this first part, because COVID's ruined 2020 and 2021, or prior to the event via conference call or another electronic meeting. So be on the lookout after your stuff is submitted. Be on the lookout if you're a student and you're applying. Be on the lookout for links to a Zoom, WebEx, whatever we're going to do for that interview to happen, right? And a big part when it comes to interview slots, we're in 2020, dear Lord, in 2020 is a fun message. So in 2021, what we're going to be dealing with is you're most likely going to have random time slots, and I use random with quotation marks. We're going to probably figure out what works best for you in terms of your time slot of when you're available, because with everything with virtual learning and everything else, we want to make sure we'll be able to work with you and whatever's going to be happening with schedules. And our biggest goal is to be flexible in this. And then from there, we'll go ahead, give you your time slot, and then you will make sure to meet your interviewer for that time slot. Now, for FRC, the mentors that nominate students are going to be contacted by the Dean's List manager. In this case, it would be the judge that's handling that. In past years, it's been Ron or Sue Miller, or Ron Pesner or Sue Miller that handles that. So Pleasant and Sue Miller that handle that. So make sure that you're watching to see what interview they're going to be, what event they're going to be interviewed at. And I interview or event in quotes, right? And if 2 students are nominated on a team, you're going to be interviewed at the same event. But in this case, with COVID, you're going to be in the same event, but it's obviously going to be different time slots. So depending on the length of the quote unquote event, we're going to have multiple days, but you're maybe doing an actual 1-day event. Just be on the lookout for the specific time slot. Also, a big part of why we do these things, the number of students that are nominated is so large that it's very hard to actually do our interviews at the district championships. And so we do, in general, a second round of interviews at the district championships. The number of students that are interviewed at the district championship will be determined by our district and be based on the total number of semifinals and how many finalists that we're going to select in essence. So if you notice from 2020 when we went ahead and did our events, each of the different qualifying events had their own quote. I'm going to call them winners, but they're basically semifinalists. So each of the events basically had their own semifinalists that then went on to the second round of interviews. So from there, for the district championship interviews, the same people, Ron Pleasant or Sue Miller, would then contact the mentors to go ahead and get those interviews set up. Now, before we go forward on that, I want to also explain what we did with FTC. FTC this last year, we actually did we did basically our interview round and then our review round. Interview round was where they were interviewed at their individual events, and then what happened is this, right? We have a lot of candidates as stated, and the reality is, my hope is that we are going to have a state championship. That is my hope. But I don't want to invite 30 plus candidates to the state championship for an award that they may not get. It may be a long drive for them, maybe a lot of different things. So what we did last year is we selected the top 12 students out of our candidates, top 12 students, and those 12 were then invited to come to our state championship last year. And from that 12, we made our selection of our 3 finalists that then would proceed to the World Championship. So that's how it looks for the FTC side. Is there anything I'm missing, Ms. Terry?
No, let me just add, the students are interviewed by at least 2 interviewees. So if we are in person, it's not one-on-one. You always have 2 people. That helps with the YPP. And you have both of those interviewers will write up their review. And then for FTC, that interview will happen at the league tournament. And we're hoping by our league tournaments that most of our events have transitioned into live in-person events. So the awards may still be, or judging may still be virtual or remote. So we don't know yet how the Dean's List interviews will be done, but we'll get more information as that develops.
Yes. Oh, dear. I really hope we're going to be back in person. Really hope. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about the award level. So, semifinalists, once a student is nominated, they're automatically a semifinalist, right? An email confirmation is going to be sent to the student, the submitter of the nomination, and the student's parent, if they're registered in the student registration system. And then the email will include the nomination essay as well as where the interview will take place. Again, make sure your nominee, if you're a mentor, or if you're a student, you read the essay. Make sure you know what's in there so that you can talk about it when it comes to your interview. So from there, finalists for each state and region are going to be announced at the state/regional championship. And they're usually announced, we usually announce them in our closing ceremonies. Mm-hmm. And we just do. So we'll go ahead and we announce this last year it was 3 for FTC, and it was 2 for FRC. So from there, all the finalists that go through are considered for the award. No interviews that happen at the first championship. Anything that happens from essays that are provided and our interview feedback are going to be available to them, which makes it very imperative that your essay is not bland, because you need this essay to help carry this student all the way through to the World Championship. We're, at Georgia First, I'm proud of the people that we have doing our not the nomination process, but our interviewing process and our reviewing process, because we go through and we make sure that we do our best effort to make sure that we interview the student and we give them the best shot that they can as they go forward. But that is only helped by a good essay. So make sure that that essay is clean, airtight, and ready to go. Now, a big point about this, finalists do not have to be at the World Championship in order to be considered, right? Not everyone's going to be going to Houston or Detroit, for the World Championship. So you don't have to worry about being there. And a big note, because this is always something I get every year. The FTC winners and FRC winners, they don't go against each other. They're selected in different pots. So there's 10 FRC Dean's List Awards winners and 10 First Tech Challenge Dean's List Award winners. You don't have to worry about competing between the two.
And students that participate in both programs can be nominated for both levels.
Yeah, we actually selected for, not last year, 2019, there we go. In 2019, we actually had a student that was selected as a finalist in both FTC and FRC. So they had a double shot, which is actually really cool. So from there, I want to talk award winners. Very simply, unique trophy. I wish that I did not leave my trophy right now is in my office. In Duluth. So I can't show you my crystal trophy, but you get this really cool trophy that's designed by First and by DECA. You get a ring recommendation from First Leadership. How great is it to have Dean Kamen and others write your recommendations to any colleges or, and I love the second part, employers of your choice. So if you're looking later on in life for an internship in college or whatever, you can just pull out that essay and give it to them. Also, fun fact, the original team of the winning student will receive a credit towards the next season's registration fees. And then finally, a commemorative plaque for the student's school. I wish I could say that is it, but that is not. You also, I really, again, COVID, whatever. The winners also get an invitation to go to the Dean's List Awards Summit at First headquarters in Manchester. You get to go see First headquarters. You get to go see DECA. You get to go see Dean's house. And you get to be around not just your fellow winners, but you get to be around the movers and shakers of First. They bring in the celebrities of First for this event. So when I got to do it before, I got to meet people that I'd looked up to when I was in school. I got to meet Karthik, who's one of the great MCs for First Robotics Canada. I got to meet JVN, the leader of Innovation First, the guy that runs Robo Wranglers, and he also helps run, I think it's Rackspace right now, the company. And he basically handles a lot of the stuff with Vex. And I got to meet Andy Baker. So you get to meet all these cool individuals, as well as obviously Dean. You get to meet the members of the Kamen family that actually help with this essay. So it's a great opportunity. And then finally, it's an opportunity to be able to work with all the members of the First Dean's List and First Leaders to advance the alumni mission of First. It's a big thing for us. When we talk about the long-term parts of First, We want people that are going to be here for the long run, right? For me, I was reflecting on it. This is my 15th year in FIRST Robotics, and having that award was such, I wouldn't say that it was the reason I'm here today, but it's a reason that I feel so empowered, because I want every student to have the opportunity to feel like the rock star that they are in their own right. And so this award is a vehicle for that to happen. And so, a big part for us is this is going to be a collaborative effort. What I've seen over the last couple of years is that as these kids go into the dean's list, it's like what's the word I'm looking for? It's the most awesome club that you can be a part of. A lot of the people that went in the first class, so that was a fun fact. I was part of the first class of Dean's List Awards winners in 2010. A lot of those guys I still talk with, I still work with for first items, and I get to bounce ideas off of them. And even from that point, it's a great club where literally, probably a couple of my my best friends were also Dean's List winners, and we met through the Dean's List and through getting to work on these different initiatives. So, this is a great opportunity for any student that you get to either nominate, or if you're a student that you get to be a part of. So do not waste this opportunity. So, I know we talked for a while. What questions do we have from anyone about this? Are there any questions from our Q&A? And also, let me turn back on my big screen so I can actually see this.
I'll also just add, if you make it to the World Championship and you don't become one of the 10 winners, it's still a huge honor to be a finalist or a semifinalist. The finalists also that attend in Houston get a lot of goodies and come home with a lot of neat stuff. So it is still a really good opportunity for no matter how far you get in the process. So we just want to encourage all the teams to nominate their students for this award, because it is really, really cool, whether you end up being a semifinalist, a finalist, or a winner.
Yes, I agree. Actually, wait, is my video? Let me see if my video is starting so I can actually show this real quick. So I was actually looking today and I found my headphones. So when I first got the Dean's List Award, Monster at that time, there we go. I think that should work. Monster at the time, before they were owned by Apple, owned their own company and everything else. And I actually still use these. These are the headphones I got. So you can see they actually have the first logo imprinted on the sides and everything else. But, I kept these for years. I wore them to competitions and everything. And it's just, it's those little mementos that kind of go on for a long time. Okay, so a couple of questions, I think. Yeah.
Where can you find the guidelines for the essay content?
So if you go to firstinspires.org, actually, let's go ahead. I'm going to pull up the website for you. If you go to firstinspires.org, you can actually find the actual content there for FRC and FTC. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. I'm pretty sure I have it as my bookmark. And you can go ahead and actually look there. It'll describe to you the essay process. It'll describe to you about the specifics of the interviews, as well as even talking about previous winners. So from there, I'm going to go ahead and try to pull it up here. Also, I will say you may have a little bit of, nope, actually we're back to normal on the website. There we go. So let's go ahead, share content, and there we go. Let's share that. So right here, this is the Dean's List page. This is the FTC Dean's List Awards page. So you can actually see 2020, 2019, and then, oh, look, 2018. There's Ariana, and there's Marcus. So from there, let's see if I can find the first robotics side. And then on that page, you'll actually see the previous winners, but then you'll also see the nomination guide, also for international teams. There's that little correction there, the nomination guide for international teams. In our case, we're looking at candidates from Georgia teams. So from there, the FRC, basically same thing. So Dean's List there, and I think it's award resources there. Award resources, and then Dean's List winners. So FRC divides their stuff up a little bit more. So this is actually their awards resources page, and it talks specifically about writing an essay, who submits, who sees it, who's eligible, the info, interviews, and then also all the stuff about the actual Dean's List award, the winners, as well as all of the items of candidates. I'm going to go ahead because you get to see that. I'm right there in the background for 2010, and then I think Alex is somewhere up here for, I was off, 2014 there. So it's a great experience.
So we had a couple questions about writing the essays. Can students help, and how do you make them unique when you're nominating more than one student?
Well, I would probably say let me make sure. So basically, if the coach is writing the students' essays, how you make them unique. A big part, like you said, Miss Terry, is use the students to your advantage. Each student will most likely have a story about the nominee that you're talking about. Have them talk about what is the one thing that makes that nominee special. And you'd be surprised, because I'll talk to students, sometimes at competitions, after we've made our decision. I'll go up and I'll ask students, it's like, okay, what about this person makes them so great? And you'd be surprised about the breadth of information that they have. Like the intimate stories, like, oh, this person, I went out on this late night pizza run, and they helped me in terms of figuring out my next moves on college, and all these different stories. These students are wells of information, so utilize them to your best ability. As well as, if your coaches and mentors, my hope is that you guys are paying attention, because these kids are brilliant. So my hope is that you're paying attention so you can be the best storyteller that we need to tell the student's story. So pay attention during the season, because you're going to see like the little nuggets that are going to make these essays super sweet. We talked about guidelines. Go on to firstinspires.org. You can see the guidelines for the essay there. And then finally, can students help write the essay? Yes. Please help, because, we want to make sure that anyone that can provide the best story about how this student has made an impact on the FIRST community, we need their words, so we need their insight into these essays. So help. Okay. Any other questions? Because I know we're like slightly running over, but it's okay, because we got all the way through.
Another question we had was the deadline. When was the deadline?
Oh gosh, deadline for 2020.
Yeah.